show you how to do a circular cast on when you're starting knitting from the center out. First of all, what you're going to do is make a circle. And your circle has to have your working yarn on top and your tail underneath. Then you're going to pinch this cross section and you're going to start knitting into this circle. So the first stitch, you're going to go inside the circle, pick up the yarn, and you've got one stitch. Then you're going to make a stitch outside of the circle, wrapping over the top, and you just hold it with your finger, and then you're going to go back inside the circle and pick up a stitch. Then you're going to wrap on the outside of the circle, and then you're going to go inside the circle and pick up a stitch. And you're just keeping that circle, opening it up with your left hand, and I'm still holding on to the tail on the right hand so I can have the circle be open. So on the outside, I'm going to make a stitch, putting the yarn around over the top. Then I'm going to go inside the circle and bring a loop through as if I were knitting. Then I'm going to go outside of the circle and wrap a stitch. Then I can hold that with my finger. Then I'm going to go back inside the circle and pick up a stitch as if to knit. Then on the outside of the circle, I'm going to pick up a stitch, and on the inside of the circle, I'm going to make a stitch. And when I start knitting this, after I start knitting this, I can pull this tail and it's going to cinch the circle tight. So I'll just show you. Now I've got a number of stitches on there. What I can do is just go to the middle here and fold in half. And I can carefully start knitting my first first round of stitches. I'm going to pull these stitches into working order, and then I'm going to pull this needle out so I can start to knit. So I'm going to knit my first stitch. And don't worry about how big this hole is in the middle. Just get that first round of stitches on there. I'm going to turn it 180 degrees, pull this needle out, pull my needle back so I can have these stitches in working position. And I'm going to knit this row. Okay. Then I'm going to go back and I'll knit one more row for you. I'm going to turn this 180 degrees. I'm going to pull this bottom needle out of working position. I'm going to put these stitches onto this needle into working position, and I can start another round. And it looks a little messy right now. Don't worry about that. This is just the setup. So I'm just going to knit these. As neat as possible. I'm going to turn this 180 degrees. I'm going to pull this top needle up into working position. And you can use shorter needles to do a shorter cord, but this is just what I chose so that you could see the yarn, the white yarn against the darker needles. And I'm going to knit, knit, knit. Okay, so now I've got 2 rounds on here. And if I just put these back onto the cord and I pull this first, you can see that I get a perfect circle here. So now I have a number of rounds on the needles. So I'm going to just take them off so that you guys can see what happens. Tail, and just show you what a nice circle this makes. So now I've got the beading.